I'm also going to, sorry for an interruption, I'm also going to record the call so we can send it to participants and colleagues who couldn't join. Yeah, I also welcome colleagues. This is a very open space, and the treaty initiative is a very open space. So we also welcome colleagues who identify as gay, bisexual, or queer, or for whom none of these levels fit. Yeah, I think, yeah, and also in times of unprecedented war and violence that's happening across the world, I also welcome colleagues who are in the middle of that and still chose to be here and to be present and be part of this conversation. And at the same time, there's some norms, and I know that we all want our video to be on, but in case you feel that you want to join the conversation with your video off, feel free to do that. On languages, our first language, our mother tongue is not English. You all speak different languages. We know how English came to this region. So if you are worried that your English is not perfect, don't worry. None of us speak very perfect English, and there is no compulsion to do that. What matters most that what you bring to this conversation. And so feel free. And reminder to me and all the speakers, my colleagues, that to speak slow so that people not whose mother tongue is not or first language is not English can follow through. And with this, I hand over to my colleague Harjeet, who's going to take over from the presentation from here.
Thank you so much, Shaban. Hi, everybody. I'm Harjeet Singh. I am the strategic advisor to the Fossil Fuel Treaty Initiative. I'm based in New Delhi, India. Requesting Shaban to share the slides. Shaban, would you like to go through the agenda? Would you like? I can do that. We can start with the agenda slide.
Yeah, I'll open the slide with the agenda. Yeah, you can take it over.
Thank you. Okay, with the very warm welcome from Shaban, let's get started. So we are going to start with the introduction to the Fossil Fuel Treaty, and I'll try and cover that in 10 minutes, although it's not very easy, but we'll open the space for Q&A, so feel free to ask questions. As Shaban said, this is a very open space, and we would like to encourage a conversation with the group than a monologue. We will share the Asia strategy that we have developed with many of you and continues to evolve. And this is the space for you to input. And Shaban will lead on that along with Becca. And we'll then have breakout room discussion quickly to get some inputs from you. And then we'll talk about the next steps and closing. So that's what we have planned. Let me quickly start with the treaty presentation, what the initiative is. So we'll start with the video. Shaban, go ahead. It's muted right now. Shaban, you can reshare and then play.
Yeah, okay.
Activating the audio. Yeah, thank you.
Connections nourish us. It's what makes us human. They tie us to the land, to the air we breathe. But the climate crisis is threatening the very fabric of life.
Extreme weather, massive floods, temperatures soaring.
Thousands of people have been evacuated.
And the culprit? Fossil fuels. We know they're poisoning our world. But instead of phasing out fossil fuels, many governments are ramping up. and it's time to quit.
Oil is now flowing through the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion.
Work will begin to extract crude from the Rosebank oil field.
We need an exit ramp off the highway.
We need a new plan. We need a fossil fuel treaty, a global call to
Stop the expansion of fossil fuels.
Making our fossil fuels to adjust the equitable transition.
we've stopped weapons of mass destruction before
Today, a new historic treaty has been signed.
with a stroke of a pen, and we can do it again. Wealthy nations must move first and fastest, and other nations are already leading the way.
This treaty is imperative and monumental.
We can no longer wait. No hay otro camino.
Face down coal, oil, and gas.
Communities have stepped up, championing a movement all over the world. It's the connections we hold dear and that we're striving to protect that will ultimately save us. After all, we can't help it. It's what makes us human. Protect what you love.
Thank you so much, Shaban. So friends, this is just a quick overview of what the issue is and why we need a fossil fuel treaty. And I'm now going to expand on that a little bit. Let's move forward.
Connect.
Yeah, so previous slide. This is the crux of the conversation that we are going to have, why we need to talk about fossil fuels. The fact is that despite knowing that fossil fuels are the cause of the climate crisis, we see countries continue to expand. And the last production gap report tells us that we are expanding fossil fuels by 110% compared to what is needed to stay below 1.5 degree. That's where we are. And if we continue to burn fossil fuels in the same manner, we are going to go way beyond 3-degree temperature rise. And I must remind that when we got Paris Agreement in 2015, we were around 1 degree of warming compared to pre-industrial era, and now we are living at a world where the warming has gone way beyond 1.6 degrees Celsius. And let us understand that every fraction of the warming matters, and that's why we are seeing disasters all around us. And nobody is prepared. Of course, developing countries are seeing the impacts much more, but developed countries are also not untouched, and they're also seeing some of the major impacts right now. Next slide, please. So again, another graph to illustrate how we are going way beyond the 1.5 degree target, and we have barely 50% chance. And the latest numbers present an even more horrific picture. Next slide, please. So, of course, we all celebrate the renewable energy growth that we have seen in the last few years. But one thing that we must remember that right now it is rather feeding to the increased demand than bending the curve or reducing our dependency on fossil fuels. More than 80% of our dependence on fossil fuels in terms of global energy remains. And that is what is the most worrying part, that we are not able to move away from fossil fuels the way we should, considering how oil, gas, and coal are responsible for the climate crisis. Next slide, please. Now, this is why we need a treaty which is backed by international cooperation, because when we talk about phasing out fossil fuels, we can't just keep saying everybody should do that by 2050. As you hear, that's the target that has been set by the scientists. We need to halve our emissions by 2030 and become carbon neutral or net zero by 2050. But when you go deep into the issue and start understanding who is responsible for the climate crisis and who has more capacity to take action and who need to get support from the international system, that's when you realize some of the countries may not be readable. We are happy to share a link with you, and which has a number of reports on equity. So the concept of equity is really important when we talk about countries like the US and Norway and Canada, who continue to extract fossil fuels, but they have lot more capacity in terms of their GDP and less dependence on fossil fuels for their revenues as part of their economy. They still continue to do that, whereas countries such as Iraq or now look at Azerbaijan or Algeria or Egypt or Nigeria, who are hugely dependent, but they need more support to move away from fossil fuels, considering the share of revenue that they get from fossil fuels and the amount of time they would need to diversify their economies. And that's why the equity is extremely important, and how international cooperation can support these countries to move away, whereas there are rich countries who are not only historical responsibility, they continue to expand fossil fuels, and they need to provide financial and technological resources to other countries. Next slide, please. So quickly, why we need a transition, and if we do not have such a global agreement, what's going to happen? It's going to make transition harder, and of course, it's not going to be a just transition. We will see more standard assets, financial turmoil, risk to workers. We are not going to then be investing in building their capacity so that they can work in the greener sectors. It's going to delay renewable energy expansion because resources are going to be going to fossil fuel industry than renewable energy, and we're already seeing that happening in the US and other countries who think that they should continue to depend on fossil fuels, and they are siding with the fossil fuel industry. It's going to delay economic diversification, and we're already seeing more pro-fossil fuel political constituencies and the connivance between the fossil fuel industry and governments. We are going to see the lock-in, not only the economic one, but also technical, legal, and political. And we are already listening that now we need to use geoengineering, which is going to be quite dangerous, especially with many of the unproven technologies. And of course, we are already now beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius of warming, even if temporarily it's going to cause much more devastation. Next slide, please. So IEA, International Energy Agency, which has been quite conservative, has also now become a lot more vocal that we don't need any further investment in new fossil fuels if we really want to achieve our net zero pathway. Next slide. And we also hear from our champion, Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, that it's a moral and economic madness if we continue to invest in new fossil fuels. So the important part here is that why we need a treaty, when we look at the current global architecture, for 30 years, there was not even a proper conversation on fossil fuels. Paris Agreement does not mention that. There was a brief reference to that at COP26. At COP28, we got the language of transitioning away from fossil fuels, but it's such a weak outcome. It has so many loopholes and qualifiers, and so they really fell short. And for the last 1.5 years now, there's very little conversation on how whatever little we got needs to be implemented. Next slide. And this is our chair of Fossil Fuel Treaty. She says, as crazy as it may sound, this is the first time we are actually having this conversation. And the fact is that it's still not enough, while we took 28 COPs to even talk about it. Next slide. So when we talk about fossil fuel treaty, we are primarily looking at 3 pillars. And the term non-proliferation, as you can imagine, has come from the anti-nuclear regime. Our ultimate goal is a just transition, how we can help countries move away from fossil fuels, at the same time supporting them with technical and financial capacity and resources. When we say non-proliferation, which means no further expansion. And that's exactly what we are saying, and you hear from many leaders. And we need a fair phase out. And that's the graphic that I showed, where countries are plotted on X and Y axis, really looking at which countries have more responsibility and how other countries need to be supported. So the fair and just transition that needs to happen requires, again, leadership from countries who are most responsible, but also resources to developing countries. Next slide. This is just to give you a sense, and we'll be very happy to share the presentation with you later. But how many other treaties that have come into place have been based on this civil society engagement and leadership from cities and a small number of nations, which then led to a much larger global treaty. And that's what we get inspired and draw our learning from, that it is still possible. And the kind of momentum that we have seen in the last 5 years gives us a lot more hope that this treaty, which can help us move away from fossil fuels, is possible. So whether we look at Montreal Protocol or prohibition of nuclear weapons, mine ban treaty, chemical weapons convention, and plastics treaty, which is now also seeing momentum. Next slide. Not getting into details, as I said, we'll share the presentation, but we've spent over the last few years building the movement. We see a lot more political buy-in now, and we are now moving towards the multilateral process where the conversation on the real text of the treaty, we've also worked on the principles, and now we are moving towards the shape of the legal architecture so that we take a step in that direction and the negotiation on treaty can begin. And once we have the treaty, we will hold countries to account and provide support to those who need a much more international cooperation in terms of finance and technology. Next slide, please. I think we can skip this. Okay, let me just briefly explain where this is where we are at this moment, and we can have a little more conversation. So now that we have got a number of countries, and I'll briefly share that, we are looking at a moment where we actually do some of the independent and standalone conferences to figure out whether we go to UNGA as part of the resolution development process, or we adopt various other approaches. As I showed in the slide, there are many other treaties where countries agree to negotiate a treaty, and then it goes to a particular process, whether it goes to the UNEA, the Union Assembly, or it goes to UNGA. So that conversation will happen among countries on what's the path forward. Should it be adopted by countries independently? It should go to UNGA or a UN committee or similar other processes. So that's where we are at this moment, looking at various different pathways. And we can talk more about it. Next slide, please. So just to give you a sense, we already have 17 countries and 2 from the region, Pakistan and Timor-Leste from Asia. We have a lot of countries from Pacific region. We also have countries like Colombia, which is a fossil fuel exporting nation, along with Timor-Leste. So you see a composition of countries which represent vulnerable countries and countries that are dependent on fossil fuels for energy, but also the ones that are exporting. Next slide. So this is how we are spread as a movement. We have close to 4,000 organizations spread all over the world. Next slide, please. So we also have 10 indigenous nations. We have 130 plus cities and subnational governments, over 1 million individuals, 800 parliamentarians, more than 3,000 scientists, academics, and researchers. Banks, now I would say more than 25 banks as part of this alliance, and more than 600 faith institutions. Next slide, please. Yeah, these are some very powerful comments from governments who are supporting the treaty. Next slide. Our partners, just to give you a sense, we also have World Health Organization and European Parliament who have supported the treaty, and they have been continuously sending very strong messages to the world why we need the treaty. Next slide. And of course, we have support from the Vatican Cardinals and youth movement, and as I said already, faith movement, and many other players who have supported the call. I think, Shiban, we can probably stop and get into a conversation. And Ban Ki-moon recently supported. I'm conscious of time, so it will be good to open the floor. We can cover all that in the conversation. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. 1 minute.
We can stop there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry, a lot of slides, but this was important to give an idea about the treaty initiative, and this is one of the first phase of the calls that we are doing in Asia. We can hope to continue this conversation either in group sessions like this, or as some folks know here who have been working with me in the that I love to do one-on-one conversations as well. We'll come to that later, how we take this conversation further. But yeah, the floor is open for questions and comments and yeah, any observations. I'll also share the slide. You can actually input directly on the slide but the floor is open.
Hi, may I come in, Harjeet?
Sure, Dr. Prana, please go ahead.
This is wonderful and there's a lot to learn from it. My question is, organizations like Lung Care Foundation, and we work in the domain of health in India, vis-a-vis air pollution, plastic pollution, fossil fuel, we are committed to that. While the presentation is more in terms of a very large scale macro level change, but what are your recommendations to organizations like us who work in smaller areas, where we can influence the city governance? For example, we have certain MOUs with some of the cities in India, and we are primarily working in areas like Punjab, UP, Rajasthan, etc. And then the city administration joins hands with us, the doctors join hands with us. And the moment you start talking about fossil fuel at a very large scale, they'll say, okay, go and talk to the government. But then, you can always say, okay, move away from it, reduce the coal, and we have those campaigns relating to health. For example, nobody uses a tandoor angithi or a chula in villages because that's consuming fossil fuel. So all those minor actions we can all initiate. What would be your recommendation so that we can scale it up all across? Because when we talk about it, gas, fuels, and coal, we are working on it on the health part of it. But I mean, if you could recommend certain actions or maybe give us a better, bigger blueprint, we can start thinking in terms of working on it. And maybe we can later on take it offline also in terms of working along.
Sure, Dr. Prana. Thank you very much for your question and also sharing about the work of Lung Care Foundation. And I'm very well aware, we were together with Dr. Kumar, and we do have a number of conversations. So I'm very impressed with the work that
So we are both co-founders of Lung Care Foundation, Dr. Kumar and I.
Right. And yeah, and thank you so much for your work and leadership on this very issue. And what you are doing is actually the right thing to do. It's now about connecting the dots. So I would say health is such an important entry point for this conversation. And we have seen how you have been able to actually move a lot of things, not only on ground, but also with policymakers, because that issue connects with people much more than talking about climate change as a big banner issue, because people are able to relate how burning of fossil fuels and all the pollution that we see because of that is affecting them directly. So that's a great mobilizer in terms of concept and helping connect with people. What we need to do now, and which again you are already doing, as I said, I'm very well aware, is about influencing policymakers. The way you interact with local governments and city governments and talking to them on how to shift policies. I would say it's happening, but it's happening at a much slower pace compared to what is needed on ground. The awareness that organizations like yours have generated at the citizenry level, at the member of legislative assembly or member of parliament level, I think that is a great first step. The important thing now is how do we mobilize that political momentum and make a shift, not only in terms of policy and especially in case of India and many other countries, the implementation of policy remains a much bigger challenge than the policy itself. So we have pollution standards, but we know that those are not implemented. So how do we then engage with citizens and put pressure on governments to change policies and implement that? Now, where we come in, I see your hand and very happy to have it more like a conversation. Now, where we come in as part of a global campaign is to talk about two things. One, how it is such an important issue to now specifically talk about fossil fuels, which we did not do in the last 30 years. And second, we need a global framework to move away from fossil fuels. What has happened so far, and I can speak in case of this region, that at the international level, we have not looked into specific issues of each country. Not just India. Let's talk about Philippines. Let's talk about Indonesia. Let's talk about Pakistan, or Malaysia, who are large consumers. But also there are countries like Nepal and Bangladesh and others who are dependent. How each country has a very specific challenge, and how we need to provide handholding support to each country to make that transition. Because of that gap in the global policy architecture, that conversation has not happened. So the work that you are doing helps us put pressure at the national level, but also connect with the international level. Please come in.
I'll give you a quick update on that. Last Friday, which has just gone by, we were invited by the Niti Aayog, the highest planning body of India, to make a presentation to their top team for 2 hours on health and transport. And I think this itself is a way to move deeper inside. And last month, I also conducted a session for the elected representatives of city of Gorakhpur, where the chief minister comes from, where we were talking in terms of what could be done at a local level. So these are smaller initiatives that we have already started working on. But a larger framework, a larger backing is going to definitely help us to multiply it manifold. And sometimes we get restricted by the information that we have or the knowledge that you have that we don't have, and maybe also the kind of resources we have, so limited resources to even work and actually multiply ourselves in terms of creating a rightful impact. Thank you so much for this invite and your presentation. And I'm sure offline we can also connect again and get into a more deeper conversation. You will have to permit me today because I have to rush into another meeting immediately after this. So I may not be in a position to stay for longer. Thank you so much. And it was lovely participating with everyone. And namaste to everyone and regards to everyone from India. Thank you
Thank
so
you so much,
much.
Dr. Khurana. We will
Dr.
definitely
Khurana.
connect offline.
Right. Yeah. I also want to point one quick thing is that we also have a very vibrant cities and subnational campaign, and where exactly at the city level, we make our colleagues make the connection from about air pollution and cities and building a climate, rebuilding. Our cities are already built and they're damaged, but how to build a climate resilient city. And one of the examples that I give is my colleagues from Nepal present here can also talk, is one of the first cities in Asia that joined the treaty initiative is Itahari. It's known as the transport hub of Nepal. But what happened, and Clean Energy Nepal and Shreya, who is also has been the initiator of that campaign. And what Itahari has done recently is that they have changed their public bus fleet or the transport fleet into electric buses. Because for them, after signing the treaty and making that transition was actually the next step. So I'm going to paste the link and also I'll send resources. But we also have a vibrant, a lot of folks ask what we can do at the city level. And I think this is one of the things that you can actually do. Yeah. Yeah. Rachel, do you want to, your comment about Singapore, do you want to talk about that? And then we can move to the next slides.
Hello. Thank you for sharing more about the treaty. I have a question actually that's not really related to the comment. I'll be curious, what is some suggested calls to action that we could do as local campaigners and regional campaigners? I know that one that has been pushed forth quite actively is to nudge our governments to be signatories to the treaty. I think in Singapore that's quite challenging. So I'm wondering if there are other avenues of change that me and other environmental communities can consider. Yeah, thank you.
I think there is a lot more. One is, of course, the cities and subnational, but we also have, in some of the slides we have to skip, is that we also have a huge cross-section of people that's in the treaty. you have the health sector, we have the, of course, the faith groups. We also have the unions. And I think we also have a big section of parliamentarians for a fossil-free future that's initiated and run by Dinah from APMDD, Asia Pacific Movement for Asia People's Movement for Depth and Development. So there's a lot of that. We also have are building on our youth network is building on a universities campaign. And also as a young person, you can actually join that youth centric campaign also, which of course Farzana is also present here from Bangladesh, champion of the treaty initiative, and we can also talk about that.
Great, thanks for sharing. I think it'll be helpful if we could get to know and hop onto existing energies and networks and see where our experience and our communities best fit into these streams of campaigning. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I think post this call, I'm going to also open up the floor if anyone wants to do also face-to-face one-on-one conversations with me and how we can take this forward. I'm more than happy. Harjeet.
Yeah, just to build on what Shivan already said, that we have a vibrant citizen subnational program, and we also have a toolkit there. We'll be very happy to share that with you. And so also connect with people within the team who have been actively working on it. And Singapore, of course, I can understand the challenge where Singapore is not yet ready to be part of this treaty campaign. But I think bringing them to the table is quite important, because Singapore and many other cities have already taken a lot of steps in moving towards much more a greener world, and all the work that has happened also needs to be highlighted. But again, working with local officials, so lobbying them is going to be important so that they can come up with specific plans. So you can do things like public petitions and letter writing campaigns, and even public hearing and some of the testimonials work, and wherever the local renewable energy transition is already happening, highlighting that, and also making sure that other local areas and constituencies start picking them up. I'm sure Singapore and many other cities also have fossil fuel free zones, but not with the same name. I know Nepal, for example, has a place where it's a car free place. So there are many such positive examples that we have in different parts that we can do. If you want to organize educational events, if you want to do media outreach, build coalitions, please reach out to us, and we'll be very happy to connect. We have a colleague, Becca, here, who leads the comms work for Asia. So we can actually make those connections and make sure that you have adequate support. Yeah.
And yes, Rachel, we have tons of campaign materials. I'm going to share those resources in the end. There's a slide, and post this conversation also in my reply email. I'll share those. There is, yeah, we have them. And I'm going to quickly, for everyone, we started a little late. So we're going to go over the hour. So 10 minutes more, yeah? And then we can stay on the conversation. And because I also want to have the conversation with you all. But very quickly on Asia, I'm going to do a speed round, rapid fire round, whatever you call that. There you go.
While Shibayan is presenting it, I would like to encourage you again, because of lack of time. The slide that he has shared, presentation you have access to. Please keep putting your comments on the slide or on the chat as he's presenting. Feel free to ask questions as well. Even if you're not able to cover on this call, we can come back to you later. So Shibayan will be in touch. Over to you, Shibayan.
Right. Yeah, the call is recorded and all the chats will be there. So in case we can't answer, I'll reply to you. And also I will look over the comments in the document. Very quickly, we had the first Asia network meeting last year in Nepal. And some of the colleagues who are present on the call were also in that meeting. If some of you want to talk about it, you can say how great it was. But from there, we restarted this Asian network and to build on our campaigning. And from there, the strategy has come, and we are still building on it. I don't need to go into this. We know the regional context that we are at a tipping point. There's a big appetite for growing. Like we need to grow. Most of our countries are still developing, but there's also the danger of fossil fuels. These are the challenges. Again, I won't go. We all know the challenges here. But there are also opportunities. And yeah, renewable energy potential, emerging regional and global leadership, and leveraging the Fossil Fuel Treaty for a just transition. This is the draft vision and strategic objectives of what we have, the Asia strategy. And this slide is with you, so if you want to go over later and come back with questions, please feel free. This is the call that we are doing. It's part of this process of the Asian network engagement. And yeah, and we want to also, we won't have time for breaking room today, but we also want to give people and our network the opportunity to how they want to engage with the treaty. I know that some folks are very interested into local level campaigning, cities, subnational. Some folks are very interested in faith. That's one of the areas that I used to work and I still work in the treaty. And also a youth network that Farzana, Shreya, my other colleague Mitzi, we all might be knowing, and also Becca is also involved. There's also the comms and the narrative work that is led by my colleague Becca, and this is her part of that work. And also on the Asian narrative, this is also a conversation that we had during our Asian network calls that we do monthly. And this is from the inputs from that call that we developed this narrative. Again, I'm not going to go into details. We'll share that and you can come in questions. But also, Becca, if you want to do a quick rundown, please feel free. And on our country prioritization, we have the phase 1 and the phase 2. The phase 1 is Nepal, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, where we are actually doing a lot of local level engagement, but also we are, some of the government officials from these countries are also attending some of the, as an observer status in some of the bilaterals that we do from time to time that's led by a political team. Phase 2 is Cambodia and Timor-Leste. Timor-Leste has already endorsed, but we are trying to do is build on their work into the civil society network and the faith network. And because, as you know, that Timor-Leste is a fairly new independent country, so they are exploring fossil fuels. That's how the economy, but there's also conversations that's happening. Sorry, I went too fast. There's also a conversation that's happening is that we need to build a new Timor-Leste. How do we do that transition? And Cambodia, we are still exploring, looking at Cambodia's renewable energy potential. There are some partners who are very keen to do local level campaigning in Cambodia. But yeah, and as I said, that we also have a very vibrant cities and subnational campaign. In the network meeting, a lot of our colleagues came and said that this is where we want to focus. So we have that. And these are some of the cities that was talked about. Like these are cities that people want to target and build on. Our colleagues in Philippines are also very involved in local level political campaigning, like going to their candidates during Senate election and asking them to endorse the treaty if they win. And we actually have 1 or 2 candidates who actually won and they are supposed to pledge. So we're going to hold them to account and get that pledge. Sorry. Yeah, this is how we developed. Yeah, and then we can open for written input. Yes, as Harjeet said here, country prioritization refers to the country level endorsement, while the engagement with CSOs, constituencies, cities, and subnationals continues in the entire Asia region. And again, and thank you for pointing that, Harjeet. And on this, you can be based anywhere in Asia and you want to do it, let us know. We are more, and especially me, we are more than happy to support that because we know that the region we are in, country level endorsements takes time, but sometimes at city levels, things move a little faster. Also, as an example, Mook is here from RE Generation Thailand. They are working on local level solar initiatives with the cities governors. And when I was talking to Mok, and one of the things that came out is that why don't you target those cities which are already moving towards RE? They'll be easy. So we are working on that. Yeah. Sorry, too fast. I went back on my promise to talk slow. So apologies for that. But I also know that we all have a busy schedule and everybody who joined has so many things to do. So I also want to, yeah. But open the floor for conversations. And I'll also paste some resources here for you, Rachel, and everyone. Hi, Ajit, please go ahead.
Everybody's so silent, so I thought I'll say a few
Please.
words and encourage people to speak. Also to clarify on country prioritization. So when we talk about getting a country engaged, and we call them participating country or country or endorsing country, the idea is that we want very active engagement of governments to now take the diplomatic work forward. So as you saw the list of 17 countries, where we are planning for a standalone conference, but we're also working on the text and the legal process. That's the kind of conversation we need to start. And of course, we don't have a lot of capacity as part of our team to go to each and every country. We have seen the interest coming from these countries, and again, thanks to many civil society organizations from those countries who are on the call, who have taken up the initiative to reach out to the government. So when we talk about those countries who we have prioritized, because we see that engagement, that doesn't mean that we don't want to add more countries. So if you have capacity, if you have relationship with your own governments at various levels, please let us know. If you want to start a conversation, you want us to explain and have a one-on-one meeting uh, with technocrats and bureaucrats and even your MPs and officials, we are very happy to set up those conversations. So this is just a focus right now for us so that we know where we need to do more engagement, but that's not a list where we want to stop. So if you have such leads, please let us know. And I see a hand, so I was successful in getting people excited. Please go ahead, Mika. Over to you, Shah.
Hi. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, thank you. So my name is Mika. I'm a public relation member from the Bio Society. It's an organization under University of Science Malaysia. We are located in Penang, Malaysia. So, like I mentioned, that it's an organization under a university. So it's a relatively small society, a relatively small organization. So I mean, we are under the country, in the country Malaysia, but to get that national outreach from us, it's quite from my part, it's quite difficult. So I would like to ask what small organization like me and my friends can do to participate in this treaty. What can we do? That's what I want to know.
Hi, Mika. Yeah, I'll take your question. I was hoping some of our younger champions will also get to answer your question. I think I come from a very grassroots movements network. That's how I started. So I always say start local. So if you are in a city government, you look at, as I said, some of the cities, subnations are really doing impressive work when it comes to the just transition. So think about that. What do you want to do if sorry, you're based in?
Malaysia, Penang, Malaysia.
Okay, you're based in Malaysia. We have some colleagues in Malaysia, and we have a very new network, and I can also connect you to them. But and one of the cities that we have been talking about in Malaysia is Petaling Jaya. So look at the subnational endorsement there. And so yeah, for start local, look at is your city government, if you have a network, can you move the city government to endorse the treaty, or who is your local MP? And yeah, so start local, start in your university, and we can share you the resource bank that you can actually use to also start some of your work. We have email templates for MPs and senators, and also that you are in Malaysia and Rachel is in Singapore, maybe something together, but I know two different countries, but something of a network building work that you can do. Unlike in South Asia, where it's really hard to move from one country to another, I've heard in ASEAN it's quite easy to move around. So I always tell my colleagues in ASEAN to use that advantage and move around. Yeah. So, and again, Mika, I'm more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you also. And any of our young champions, Farzana, Joey, Shreya wants to say what you're doing at the local level, what you think, please feel free to come off mute. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I would love to have a online session with you too. And also, I want to ask about the treaty that will be happening in 8 to 15 September, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so the online ritual, will that like for the whole session, will it be occupied for the whole session, like from starting from day 1, 8 until 15? Is the virtual meeting will be happening every single day, or we got to choose what's the day that we want to participate in?
Oh, Mika, you are talking about the Treaty Virtual Summit, right? Yes, we are still actually working on the session plan. And if you have signed up, you'll get an update on how the sessions will look at. And that was my closing part where I was going to invite everyone in this session to the Treaty Virtual Summit. So thank you for initiating that. But yeah, we are still working on that session plan, Mika. So you will hear from us soon. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly talk about one last part, which is an invitation for this network for everyone on this call to join our next big event, which is this one. Let me go. Yeah. September, we are organizing the first Treaty Virtual Summit. And this is, it's from 8 to 15 September. If you have not registered, please do so. I'll paste the link here. And the virtual summit is basically, which is hosted by our whole team. This is basically to laying the groundwork for formal negotiations process to start, in 2026 for towards a fossil fuel non-proliferation treaty. It's not a discussion forum, but this is a working space we are planning to hold with design to shape the next steps together with the network. And this is your chance, and we are really inviting the network to shape the next step of the process for the treaty and help deliver our first international project process on ending the fossil fuel era. And you can register here. You can also give your inputs on the session, or if you want to be a speaker, or if you have ideas for speakers, feel free to do that. And our global team, my colleagues Nathan and Akanksha and others will also get in touch with further information on this. But really, I think as a next step after this call, you should go to the Virtual Summit webpage and register. Yeah. And I'll also, you all have my email, but I'll also give you my email. Yeah, please get in touch, and we'll be more than happy to have one-on-one conversations. And I'll also invite you to the WhatsApp group which I've already pasted the link. Yeah, so feel free to join the network. We also do monthly network calls. And also we invite updates from the network. It's not a one-way conversation, it's a two-way. So any important work that you are doing, you can also send us, and we'll be more than happy to post that on our network. And before we end, Becca, can you help me take a photo screenshot of everyone?
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Becca.
I
And
think
this is
it's
Becca, by the
You
way,
can
who has
ask everybody
been
to
talking.
switch on their video. Yeah, let everybody
yeah,
switch
if you
on their
can
video.
switch on your video so we can take the screenshot. Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, all good.
Hi, Apeksha. Thank you, and good to see you here. I agree with that Signal remains the best and the most secure platform. But in the Asia network and Asia proper, the work I've seen that people are very hesitant to do that transition. So it's an ongoing process, and I hope maybe sooner we can do the transition to Signal. Also, the factor is I've seen, again, coming from an outside perspective, Kakao, people in Korea use Kakao. In Thailand, people use Line. In South Asia, it's mostly WhatsApp. So it's a difficult process to get people, but I agree with what you said. Yeah. And that's all. Thanks for sticking around for a little over 16 more minutes. And it was really great to have you all in this conversation. I hope to see you on all our, network channels, email, WhatsApp, and have continuing this conversation. As a next step, I'm going to send you all a recording of this call, the slide, and also some next steps what we can do. Add you to the email listserv and a WhatsApp group. If that's not something you want, you can let me know. My phone number is also here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Thank you for